What if I told you that in medieval England, on the cusp of the most famous invasion in history, another, even more legendary invasion was brutally crushed, marking the true end of the Viking Age? Picture this, it's the year 1066, and the greatest warrior king of his age, a man who had fought from the Arctic ice to the sun-baked walls of Constantinople, arrived on English shores, intent on claiming a crown that would prove to be his deathbed. The year is 1066. England, a coveted jewel in the North Sea, trembles on the brink. King Edward the Confessor is dead, and the crown has been seized by Harald Godwin's son, a powerful English earl. But far to the north, across the stormy grey waters, an old wolf stirs. Harald Sigurdsson, known as Hardrada, Hard Ruler or Thunderbolt of the North, King of Norway, a man forged in the fires of 100 battles, hears the whispers of a vacant throne. He was a Viking, a mercenary in the Byzantine Varangian Guard, a warrior who had served emperors and battled Saracens. Now, at 51, this giant of a man, said to stand 7 feet tall, with a beard like a winter storm and eyes that held the chill of the fjords, saw his destiny laid out across the sea. In early September, the sea itself seemed to boil as Hardrada's fleet, 1,000 longships strong, painted with dragons and serpents, descended upon the English coast like a plague of locusts. With him was Tostig Godwin's son, the exiled brother of the English King Harold, a bitter man seeking vengeance. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle records the terror. Harold of Norway and Tostig came with a mighty war fleet into the Humber. There was much pillaging and burning. They sailed up the Humber estuary, past startled villages, past the very lands Tostig had once ruled. The north of England, largely undefended, fell swiftly. They met the local English earls, Edwin and Morcar, at the Battle of Fulford, and crushed them with brutal efficiency. York, the great northern city, capitulated. Hardrada, his victory seemingly assured, demanded hostages and tribute. The Anglo-Saxons of the north, weary of endless raiding, swore oaths to him. It seemed the Viking Age, far from ending, was merely beginning a new, terrifying chapter. But King Harald Godwin's son, a man of remarkable energy and iron will, was no fool. He had been preparing for an invasion from Normandy, but the news from the north was an urgent, existential threat. Gathering his huscarls and the FYRD, his elite household troops and the local levies, he began a forced march of unprecedented speed. His army, exhausted but resolute, covered nearly 200 miles in just 4 days, moving from the south of England to the heart of the north. It was an astonishing feat, a testament to Harold's leadership and the desperate urgency of the moment. The element of surprise, for the first time in his legendary career, would be Harald Hardrada's undoing. On September 25, the Vikings were spread out at Stamford Bridge, a small village on the River Derwent, just east of York. They had left their heavy chainmail and weapons on their longships, miles away, in the belief they were simply awaiting the arrival of the hostages and tribute from York. The sun shone bright, an unseasonably warm autumn day. Many were swimming in the river, others lounging, laughing, enjoying the respite. But before we continue, if you're enjoying this tale of Viking kings and forgotten battles, smash that subscribe button. We bring you stories like this every single day. Then, on the ridge to the west, a shimmer. Dust. And then, the glint of English steel. Thousands of them. Harold Godwinson's army, banners flapping, marching with furious intent. The air, moments before filled with the idle chatter of soldiers, was now rent by the blare of English horns and the roar of a host on the attack. Panic erupted among the Vikings. Hardrada, magnificent even in this moment of crisis, recognized his adversary. "Who is that giant man riding so fiercely?" he is said to have asked. Tostig, pale with shock, replied, "That is Harald Godwin's son, my brother." Harald Hardrada, ever the tactician, ordered his men to hold the narrow wooden bridge spanning the Derwent. He needed time. Time for the warriors sent back to the ships to retrieve their armor, time to organize a proper defense. For a desperate, incredible moment, a single, unnamed Norse berserker stood his ground on the bridge, a human dam against the English tide. Wielding his axe with terrifying skill, he slew over 40 English soldiers, creating a bloody bottleneck, before an English spearman, hiding beneath the bridge, pierced him from below. With the bridge taken, the battle shifted to the east bank. The Vikings, many still without armor, formed a desperate shield wall, a bristling hedgehog of axes and spears. Harald Hardrada, towering above his men, clad in a brilliant blue tunic and golden helmet, fought like a man possessed, his great two-handed axe a whirlwind of death. He exhorted his warriors, his voice a roar above the din of battle. "Forward, men! Today we claim England, or we claim Valhalla." But the English, armored and disciplined, pressed relentlessly. The fighting was savage, hand-to-hand, a maelstrom of metal on flesh, blood staining the green fields crimson. Hardrada, amidst the chaos, was a magnet for the fiercest blows. Then, as the battle raged, a stray English arrow, launched high into the air, found its mark. It plunged into Harald Hardrada's throat, silencing his mighty war cry forever. The thunderbolt of the north fell, crashing to the ground, his legendary life extinguished in the mud and blood of an English field. His death broke the spirit of his men. Tostig Godwin's son, too, fell shortly after, cut down by his own brother's men. The arrival of the small contingent of armored Vikings from the ships, exhausted and disheartened, was too little, too late. The fight quickly devolved into a rout. The English pursued the fleeing Vikings with merciless efficiency, slaughtering them in their hundreds. Of the 1,000 longships that had arrived, only 24 were needed to carry the few survivors